set yourself up for success. If you are right-handed, put your water on the right side. If you are left-handed, put your water on the left side. Then wherever your water's at, put your water on top of your paper towel so that way it won't move when you go to clean off your brushes. Put your brushes below that. And then put your paints in front of you. Oh wow, those paints are dirty. If your paints have other colors in them that should not be there, we're going to rip off some of your paper towel, get it wet, and clean out just by wiping it. Some of the lighter colors, you've got to wipe them 2 or 3 times, but eventually I will get back to pure yellow. This makes it so that when you go to grab a color, you actually get the color you want, not the color that somebody else chose to put there, which was not nice of them. So clean out into your colors. Oh goodness, that one's bad. We have plenty of paper towels, so if you run out, no worries, we got more. If you would like to mix your colors at any point in time, we don't need cell phones right now, you can mix them up in the top section. Don't mix them in with the other colors. Next thing to do to set yourself up for success, take your brush and double check it and make sure it's clean. So this one's your flat brush. It looks like it's been pressed. Your round brush, you can roll in your fingers and it moves perfectly. The flat brush is really hard to do that with. So the flat brush has been pressed. Just move that one back and forth. That should be clean. With the round brush, you can actually press down on it and roll it out of 45, because that's where all the paint likes to hide, right at the edge of the metal. If you've ever painted a house and cleaned your brush afterwards, you know that it likes to get stuck in there. You can reshape your brushes too, just by pulling the edges of them with a round brush, and then with a flat brush you can just put your fingers like a scissor and flatten it out. Cool. The first technique we're going to do is called dry brushing. So take your flat brush and try to squeeze out all the water. Don't pull the hair out, just squeeze out the water. And then rub your finger over the tip of it so that it kind of pulls all the bristles apart. So your brush is laying down flat and we're pulling the bristles apart. What you're going to do is grab a color that's already wet, so one that maybe you already used outside. I need to make one of my colors wet, so I'm adding some water to it. And you're just going to go right on the edge and pick up a tiny bit of color. And then you're going to take your fingers and separate your bristles again carefully. Lightly touch the top of your paper and drag it all the way across. What you're looking for is the lines to separate. Like right there, you can see that white space in between of the paper. This one, it didn't do a good job separating, so I'm going to try again. Zoom out for a second, you guys. When you try again, go ahead and dip it in the pigment and then wipe off some of your pigment on your paper towel. Pull them apart again and see if you can get it. There we go. Now it's starting to separate. So the neat thing about this technique is you can get grass really easily with dry brushing. You can also make trees real quickly with just a flick of your wrist and pulling away. You can make eyelashes. So if it's not separating, dry your brush out real good, squeeze all the water out, pull those pieces apart. If you grab some pigment, dry it out afterwards and see if you can get it to dry. Okay. Next technique, this one's really fun. So you're going to clean your brush off, make sure that there's no pigment on it at all. And then we're going to paint with just the water. Make a shape. It could be a triangle, it could be a circle, could be a square, but make a shape with the water. You can kind of see. Make it glossy, but don't make it a big puddle. So it should be nice and shiny, but we don't need a puddle. Okay, now comes the fun part. Grab your round brush. Pick out any color you want. The more you rub your brush around in that pigment, the more paint gets pulled onto your brush. So a lot of times when people paint with watercolor, they get frustrated because it looks too pastel-y and they don't like it. So the more you rub that paint off, the more paint will be on your brush. And then put a drop of paint on the water area. Yeah, this is fun. And it should start to bleed out. So the neat thing we're actually seeing with the purple right now is there's two colors of purple. There's a light purple and a dark purple there. And you can tell when you see it bleed out. If you want to clean off your brush, yeah, that's fun. Grab another color. It should bleed right away. Some colors though, like I just grabbed a blue and look at that. It's not bleeding as much as the purple did. It could also be the color that you chose doesn't like to bleed out as much as the other one. So pick another color, see if the other one bleeds more, or add a little bit more water to your shape that you made and see if that's why it did it. Sometimes it takes the color a while to diffuse. The diffusing is that bleeding out. So just like in chemistry class, when you have positives go with negatives and negatives go with positives and diffuse, the same thing happens with the water and the pigment. The pigment wants to go where the water is, and it wants to spread out as much as it possibly can. If you want to pick your piece of paper up and swirl it around a little bit, you can. You don't have to. It's kind of fun to make it move. So that's called wet on wet. You painted a surface wet with water, and then you added wet paint to it. So that's a fun one to do. Okay, last little technique we're going to do for today is called a wash. So just like we did before, you're going to paint with water. Make any shape you want. You can make a triangle, a hexagon, a square, circle, a cow spot. So just paint with water again. You can tell if your brush is clean or not. If it's clean, you should have nice clean water. Just a reminder, if your brush is submerged and stuck in your water container, take it out. It hurts your brush. Right now we're working with not as nice brushes as we have. So the more we paint, we'll get some upgrades of paintbrushes and paper too, so you can know different materials. So taking your flat brush, pick out any color again, doesn't matter what. Remember, the more you rub it around in that pigment, the more pigment comes off on your brush. And then you're just going to do one continuous stroke over your shape so that hopefully we've got the dramatic ones in the back. So hopefully the water and the pigment are all nice and even. This is great to use for a sky, background, and that's all that is. It's a nice simple wash. So let's label these real quick. The first one we did was called dry brushing. The second one was wet hyphen on wet, and the last one was called a wash. And then make sure to write your name on these so that I can give you a grade for it. And so that we can find yours next class period, because we're going to do something else with these.